Dorothy, the Wicked Witch, the Tin Man, Ruby Slippers, Toto, Oz. These are just a handful of the words that have become synonymous with the 1939 classic, The Wizard of Oz. Even if you haven't seen the movie, you're more than likely aware of it on some level through cultural osmosis, as the film has touched virtually every form of entertainment. It's been spoofed countless times, has prominently appeared in theme parks, and led to additional adaptations of the book series it was based on, although some much more disturbing than others. But while the movie is revered as a cinematic masterpiece, it's also infamous for its disastrous production problems, possibly more than any other film in history. From all the failed attempts that came before it, when production had to start over, its 5 different directors, on-set disasters, forever lost footage, you name it. So let's take a deep dive into the making of a movie which somehow, despite the universe clearly working against it, was even produced at all, with the disastrous production history of The Wizard of Oz. Our story begins in the year 1900 with the publication of L. Frank Baum's The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. The book itself had humble beginnings and was essentially the culmination of made-up fantasy stories the author would tell his children and their friends. However, there was no one singular source of inspiration for these wondrous tales, and if anything was simply the result of his, let's say, diverse career path. This includes his time as a traveling salesman, as an actor, a playwright, a chicken breeder, the owner of a general store, an Axle lubricant vendor, and more. But there are specific influences that tie directly to Oz, such as the fear of a scarecrow in his dreams as a child, and a tin man he constructed during his time as a window shop dresser. Another was his visit to the extravagant 1883 Chicago World's Fair, which would serve as inspiration for the Emerald City. It's also said that the name Oz itself came from a filing cabinet in his office where he worked, with a drawer labeled O through Z. So with the collaboration of an illustrator named W. W. Denslow, L. Frank Baum poured all of his ideas onto paper and let his imagination flow to create The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Now, for those who have never read the original book, let's briefly cover the basic elements of the story with the original illustrations. The Wonderful Wizard of Oz focused on the adventure of Dorothy Gale, who lives on a farm in Kansas with her Auntie Em, Uncle Henry, and her dog Toto. One day she and her house is swept up into a tornado, and she winds up in the magical land of Oz, or more specifically, Munchkin Land. There she meets the Good Witch of the North, who informs her that she set the Munchkins free by killing the Wicked Witch of the East. To Dorothy's shock, it turns out that her house landed right on top of the Munchkins' former evil ruler, and Dorothy is gifted the witch's pair of, in this version, magical silver shoes. With the Munchkins set free, Dorothy's advised to go see the powerful Wizard of Oz in the Emerald City, as he's the only one who can send her back home. So she goes off to see the wizard, but she's never actually told to follow the yellow brick road, only that the road to the Emerald City is paved in yellow brick. In fact, nowhere in the book is it ever called the Yellow Brick Road, just variations of the term. Anyway, as Dorothy travels to the Emerald City, she meets the Scarecrow, who wishes he had a brain, the Tin Man, who wishes he had a heart, and the Cowardly Lion, who wishes for courage. Although in this version, the Tin Man's backstory is especially bizarre, which has to do with a munchkin he was once in love with whose mother cursed him to prevent their marriage. He then proceeded to accidentally chop off all of his body parts one by one, which were then replaced by tin from a tinsmith, and is why he wants a heart, to be able to love again. Anyway, they all decide to join Dorothy in going to see the Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and have a few perilous side adventures along the way. Now, oddly enough, in the original version, the Emerald City isn't actually green. It turns out that the city is so incredibly bright due to its brilliance that everybody who lives there has to wear green-tinted spectacles, otherwise they'd go blind. The group of outsiders then meet with the Wizard of Oz individually, where he takes on different forms such as a floating head, a ferocious beast, and a beautiful woman. Eventually they're told he'll grant their wishes if, and only if, they kill the Wicked Witch of the West, the last remaining Wicked Witch in the land of Oz. This is when the witch makes her first appearance in the book, well over halfway through, and sends her flying monkeys to capture Dorothy and her friends. However, within just a few pages when she's held captive at the witch's castle, Dorothy accidentally throws a bucket of water at the witch, which causes the Wicked Witch to melt before her very eyes. Now, in this version, it's established that the witch's flying monkeys are good guys, but bound by a golden cap with magical powers, which grants 3 wishes to whoever puts it on. So after Dorothy defeats the Wicked Witch, she uses her first wish to be taken back to the Emerald City, where the girl hopes to be rewarded by the wizard. Unfortunately, they discover that the Wizard of Oz is a fraud, and is simply a guy who came to Oz by way of a hot air balloon, and was able to convince the citizens he was a powerful wizard. But he still gives the companions a special token to represent their desires, and these items use them to be available, heart, and courage they have at home. So Ben decides to take Dorothy with him back home.
Back in the fight. Axel's done.
Which leaves the Scarecrow as the ruler of Oz, the powerful lioness the king of the forest, and the Tin Man in charge of another mythical land. But long story short, Dorothy uses her last 2 wishes to travel to the end of the good witch's house, where she feels that she has the power to go back home and be a hero. The first great steps of the movie is Silver Square, which comes out, and the life path to all of her state control. And not to go by the whole foundation to be sure that the person who is Dorothy is able to get into the systems of using the protection and control systems to access the Emerald City. Now, before we go any further, let's address the other points of the movie, especially its representation of women in friendship bonds that are created together during time of peace. He expressed some engagements of women within 2 of the photos in 1990 and again in 1991, both of which surfaced in the 1980s. As you can imagine, it was a troubling discovery for those who celebrated the actor's legacy, as his contribution to children's literature and fantasy was nothing short of profound. So it's critical that we acknowledge the extent statements he made within his personal